Evening all. I don't know why I said it like a copper of the 60s and 70s. Those days are obviously long gone, political correctness and all that. Anyway, welcome to you guys viewing already. Hopefully we're going to get a load of you commenting tonight. You can see going across the bottom, my guests tonight on episode 6 of Dirty Talk are Martin Barr and Bob Buchanan. We're going to be, in fact, before we've even just started, we've been in the green room talking about tonight's subject matter. There you go, going across the bottom. I always do this the wrong way. We're going to just talk about British riders, the development of them, and how trying to progress them into the MX2 category and upwards. So without further ado, you don't need me waffling. Let's bring them both in. First up, he's registered as BB. There he is, Bob Buchanan, being neutral tonight, not as Mr. Oakley, as Mr. Bob Buchanan, and all the way from Northern Ireland. It's not that far, but it feels like it when you got to take a midnight ferry. It's Marty Barr.
Hello,
there we go. So, so we're going to start chewing the fat on that. I've got the comment screen available straight away. Ross Sturmey. Yes, it is Oakford Hill, Fitzpaine. This is another subject matter. I'm just clearing that up before we go any further. Well done, you. So get those comments in. So, yeah, obviously this is something that we all discuss, because we have discussed it quite regularly, and we thought, let's talk openly about it. Obviously, me and Bob been talking about it, and then we thought, well, who should we get in from a rider's perspective? Somebody still actively riding, but is old enough, don't take it the wrong way, Marty, to be around when the system was a little bit, a little bit easier, as it were. Use that term how you want. So, Bob, let's start with you on this one. What, right now, it's seemingly EMX 250. Forget all the coronavirus stuff. Let's say if we were carrying on as we were, it's to make that grade now for a British rider. It seems increasingly difficult. I spoke to Mailer about it. I had him on the show, and he said, "Oh, it's simple." He was having none of it. He was just like, "You pay your money, you go and do it." Well, what if you don't have any money? What if you're a talented rider with no money?
Yeah, but that's the thing. If you're a talented rider with no money, how do you do it? But where are the riders? How do you get the riders to be quick enough that it's worth their while going? It's not just EMX 250, it's EMX 125 as well. The last couple of rounds, we haven't got anybody in it. There was nobody in EMX 125, and we had Joel Rizzi in EMX 250. Now, when qualification was different and the age limit was different, we were just, as we were talking, in 2018 when Barty was doing it with Revo and Mel, there was Clarkey, there was Spinksy, Jimmy D was doing it for me, Woodcock and Lewis Hall were doing it for you, Toddy Kay was in it, and those boys used to qualify, and then you get like Ashton Dickinson, Taylor Hamill. Well, Lewis Hall didn't qualify. Chris Mills, if you can count him as English, but he's probably a Belgian. Jamie Carpenter, Brad Todd. Those boys didn't used to qualify. They used to go into the LCQ. There is no LCQ anymore. You just have the 2 qualifying time practices, and if you don't make it, you go home. So what you've got now is, I think, if people can afford to go to GPs, they're now entering MX2 rather than EMX 250, because it guarantees them a couple of rides. At least they're going to get a ride. They're no quicker. They're probably going to get laps. They're not going to score any points, but they get the experience, and they get 2 rides. But that doesn't progress them anywhere, and it doesn't get a system going where anybody else can come up and go through it, like you say, if they've got no money. So
hold on. Valid point. Just hold that thought, Bob. I'm going to bring Marty in. Marty, everything Lee's just said there, right? So what would you do if you had if you had the money? Would you go EMX, or would you pay your money, or not money, or you had to manage a budget more and go for the option of going guaranteed racing, albeit you might not run near the front, and you go straight into MX2? Right now, if you had no experience at all and you were just starting out, knowing everything we know, what would you do?
Obviously it's a tough one. You can see it from both sides, and hopefully he doesn't mind me using him as an example. But I think a couple of years ago when Conrad Muse, he went 1-1 at Volkenswaard in the EMX, and he won it pretty comfortably. And then I think after that round, he just jumped to MX2, and he struggled. And from that point of view, I think, from me looking from the outside in, I think he should have stayed EMX and continued to build his confidence up, although he was winning, and maybe just do an odd wild card towards the end of the season in MX2. I just think when he went to MX2, his head kind of fell off and he lost his way a little bit. So going back to the question, I think it depends how mentally strong you are and how fast you are at the time. If money wasn't a problem and you were running the pace, yeah, definitely straight into MX2. But for people that's maybe hasn't got that speed, the EMX, it's definitely a brilliant class. Even when I was doing it, like Jet Lawrence, he was half my age and he went and won at Assen. So they have the speed there as well. So it's definitely a tough one. I can see it from both sides. Obviously you want to pay your money, you want to get as much race time as you can. But if you go EMX and don't qualify, then that's your weekend done. So it is a tough one.
So, but from rider development, you've just pretty much answered this question, but I'm going to recap. Like you said, for actual rider development and getting the confidence and the whole learning your trade, you'd rather go down the route of EMX and learn to race, and then before you step up to the MX2 class.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously people get carried away at times. You have to kind of look at the bigger picture. Although the age rule is 23, if you're coming into EMX 16, 17, you still get that really good year under your belt, and then you have time to step into MX2 and build it up. But like even from 2018, from when I was doing EMX, although I was one of the oldest guys there, like from a federation point of view, like the ACU, the MRA over here in Northern Ireland, we're so far behind. The likes of Buzz Ramy, Tom Vial, they all had their credit coaches there. They were running about with their iPads. They were running around the track, taking videos and coming back to the holding area, showing them before the sighting lap. So I think that development from their federation, from Great Britain, Northern Ireland, we're so far behind in those terms of having people to top riders to try and develop the younger guys to come through. I know there is coaches in England. I'm a coach myself here, but to actually at that level and have a proper Team France academy as such, it was only the French riders they were obviously looking after, and I think it was such a good help for them. Yeah,
that year that you're talking about when you come fourth, didn't you? Mel came second. Buzz Ramy won it. Van der Moosdijk was third. Those boys now running at the top of MX2. They're on that F&H Kawasaki's. They're both teammates in there. Buzz Ramy and Van der Moosdijk are winning MX2 races. Now, Martin, Mel, and Clarkey was fifth, wasn't he? Those three boys are now not, because of the age limit, those boys are now not eligible. Martin's still running in the top, like we said before. Martin's just become third in a national championship. He was fourth in that championship. Mel Pocock was second. We haven't got the young kids. The young kids aren't beating Martin. Won't mind me saying this. I know the young kids aren't beating Martin on a regular basis now. And he was at that level in EMX. We haven't got the young kids that are coming up now that are eligible, under 23, eligible for EMX, that can come up through there and then go on to win MX2s like Van der Moosdijk. I mean, Guadagnini won EMX 125 last year. That GP I've just come from in Italy, he led it for 6 laps. He led MX2 for 6 laps, and he won it EMX 125 last year. The speed of the EMX race is the same speed as the MX2 race. It's just that, there's obviously more money and everything else involved in that. And we need to get people in at the bottom of EMX and build them up to come up through that. But you need to start them younger. You're getting our riders that go out to Europe are 16, 17, 18. You've already missed EMX 125. You're 17. You're done. You've got to somehow, what Martin's saying is, right, you've got to get the federations involved, get coaches involved to get kids out there confident enough to then run through the EMX classes and because Conrad's got 2 years to go.
So
Conrad's
what?
got
So
2 years
basically,
left.
so what you're suggesting, Bob, or saying, whichever way you want to word that, you're saying that we have got that every country will always churn out every so often riders that are capable of going all the way. That no matter what. So what you're basically suggesting is that our structure compared with Europe is a big factor of why we're not producing riders, because they are not moving up onto respective classes like the 125 class or the big 185 or whatever soon enough. They get aged out too early. Is that
the fastest EMX 250 rider we've probably got at the minute? Well, there's Joel, is Eddie J. Wade. But he grew up in Spain. He'd come through the Spanish Federation. If you look at EMX 125 at the minute, everybody says, oh, Holland are doing it right. You've got to go out and ride in Belgium and Holland. EMX 125 at the minute is being won by an Italian. There's 2 Spanish, second and third. I think that the first Dutch kid's probably Scott Smolders around about 10th to 12th or something like that. The Spanish have got a good structure. They bring people through. They do it in MotoGP as well. The Italians now have got a massive good structure with Husqvarna and the Maddies. You know, that Guadagnini come through there. Albi Ferrato came through there. This new kid, Bonascuria, whatever his name is, that's just absolutely cleaning up in EMX 125 is Italian. So they've obviously got a good structure. We haven't even got anybody in the race.
How you say good structure, Marty? I'll come to you in a minute. You say good structure, so how, which it is. How are we going to? What's your opinion, or the reasons why we don't have that? Is it money? Is it lack of interest from all the governing bodies? I'm not singling any of them out. Is it just we're too blinkered with UK and we're not doing enough with academies and things like this? And of course, if you have an academy and somebody like Marty that would come in as a great coach with a load of experience, he's, as much as you love it, Marty, he's not going to be a martyr to the cause. His time needs paying for and whatnot. So how do we overcome that? Marty, I'll throw that to you first.
Go on, well, yeah, as you said, you know, I think the UK is very narrow-minded at times. Some of the federations think more of their own bank account than, you know, developing the youth. If they have no youth coming through with no future adults, and you know, I'm not saying there's a lot of coaching out there. Ex-top riders have a really good coaching system going in the UK, but that's off their own back. Where I think the federation needs to start them from the 50s, 65s, the whole way through, and have proper structure, like a development. You look at football, you know, all the other sports, they all have proper development schemes the whole way through. Where motocross, you just you battle your own ship to get to a certain level where you're pretty good, and then a team will step in and try and nab you. Where there's no involvement with the federation whatsoever. And just from that EMX, I'll go back to it in 2018, it was a big eye-opener. Just seeing all them credited coaches, ex-top riders, running about with their French federation coaching stuff on. You know, obviously that was their job that weekend. They would have been paid to go and do that, look after their riders coming up through. And as Bob was saying, you know, Basrami, like Tom Vial, you know, he's leading the World Championship now. And 2 years ago, I was racing him in EMX, and you know, he had a couple of good results. But you know, he's came through so good.
Well, as you can see, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you guys can see it, but everybody at home can. Like Seb Bartlett, obviously his son Freddie. Seb used to race down the southwest with Tidy Rider himself, and now obviously his son Freddie's coming on. They've now moved to Sweden, and as you can see his comment there, he rides in Denmark. He says their setup's great. They're bringing kids on from a very young age. The whole on the 65, they have the best 65 training with the best 85s. They all train together and have coaches running around at every round. So, you know,
but there's no Danish rider. There's no Danish rider in the EMX 125.
No,
no Danish rider in the top 20 in the EMX 125.
I
agree with everything Martin said, apart from one thing. You battle your own shit, yeah, and you get to a certain level where you're good and you've got speed, and then a team steps in and picks you up. That was true in his day. It's not true now. There are no teams stepping in to pick you up. There are no rides floating about that you can go and get. You know, your parents still have to pay. There's no there's no rides. It's one of the reasons that I thought was good that we had Marty on, because Marty came from that era where there were the rides, the paid rides, the wages, the you know, when he was on proper.com with Steve Turner, and then through Steve James and people like that. Those rides aren't there anymore. The idea that you're going to get to a GP, get in an EMX 125 race and show how good you are, and then this magic ride's this bloke's going to meet you at the end of the race and come off the track and say, "Sign here, young man." It's not there. It's not going to happen. Those rides aren't there.
No, it'd be there. They'd be there saying "sign here," but they'd be wanting the old man to sign his checkbook.
Exactly that. If Monticelli's got to walk into an awning with a bag full of cash to get a GP ride, you know, what chance you standing in EMX rides? You're not. You know, those rides aren't there, and that's one of the problems. But as for structure and federations, you know, it is the federations in these countries like Spain and Italy that are working with manufacturers to put these programs together. You've got Diga Racing and the KNMV and KTM is the youth KTM program. Maddie's Husqvarna and the Italian Federation. That system's working unbelievably. That's a factory now. That's just churning them out. And as I say, the Spanish have always done it. MotoGP, motocross, they've always got involved, the federation. Dutch, yeah. Mikey Crass, when Mikey Crass used to ride for me, he'd get wages off the Dutch government from their lottery funding. He got paid by the Dutch government. Can you imagine the British government paying a motocross rider? How much money you ever get off the British government, Mark?
He gets a, come on, Mark, don't give us that. You get a massive tax refund. Oh, hold on, that's the amount of money you've paid in, and you get it back. Yeah, forget that. Yeah, Marty, yeah. Do you listening to all that? I mean, like I said, now you've gone past that point where you could still obviously go and race at EMX, not an EMX, but you could go and do MXGP, you know, or MX2 if you choose to. But now being a bit older and seeing it, has this left you a little bit disappointed, disillusioned with how it's gone as an older rider, where we're at now?
Yeah, definitely. Because as you were saying before, every country, you know, have a handful of riders that have got something, but they just can't get that development to get it out of them to go, you know, where they want to go to the top. You know, and I see it all the time. And you know, obviously, I am getting older. I'm doing my own coaching. I'm running my own team. I know eventually I would love to keep building that up and bring, especially from Northern Ireland, because you know we obviously have that travel just even to get to England. You know, to try and help those riders that have that talent to go that bit further. But as Bob was saying, those rides are far and few between now. Unless you're first or second in the British Championship, you know, you're never going to get a decent ride to continue that on into World Championship.
Are you? I'm sorry to butt in, but are you going to? And this is across the board for British motocross again, because I just want to say that, because often or not it looks, you know, certain people, federations, whatever, think we're finger pointing and singling people, and we're not. We're looking at motocross in the UK across the board, all spectrums. But let's just say, like you just said, in the British Championship, if you win it at top 3, I mean, but is that even got to a level now where that's good enough for an EMX 250 team or a 125 team in Europe to go? Are they even paying attention to what we're doing over here?
Well, I don't think so. No.
Right.
You know, without saying names and federations and stuff, you know, you just have to see like what tracks they're using and all the rest of it. You know, I don't think they're going the right way about it. You know, they're nearly stuck in the old ways, and they need to, you know, get into the 2020 times and move forward with it. And as far as, you know, them taking head to the, you know, like the British Championship, I don't think so. It's not what it used to be. You know, although like saying this year the MX National is, you know, the quality of field there is absolutely brilliant. It's the strongest it's been in 10 years. Like I remember when I started out at the British Championship 2005, Dixon Yamaha MX1, you had Yossi Asuda, Jussi Venäläinen, Paul Cooper, like the list went on. Those guys wanted to come and do the British Championship. Yes, they were riding for British teams, but they also wanted to come and do the British Championship because it was such a big event and big championship.
Yeah, but like you said, so it's not just the riders. British teams seemingly wanted to do both. Bob, I'm going to turn to you now. You've done it. You've run your own race team. Okay, a 2-stroke team, but it's still a team that was racing British Championship and then the European. So, explain to people how hard that is to manage the two. Was there ever a time, and I know you're a massive advocate of British motocross, was there ever a time where you think, and you're doing well in Europe, and you think, oh, the British is a hindrance coming back? Was there any moments like that?
No, never. You want to win your domestic championship. You know, if not only am I a motocross fan, I'm a proud Englishman. Sorry, Martin, I'm not saying European, but so you want to win your domestic championship. But yeah, what I did was small potatoes to what we're talking about. Yeah, I always had a 125 rider, so yeah. I had 125 rider that's winning the BYN, the British 125 Championship, but he then can't qualify for an EMX race because our standard isn't big enough for people to go. You look at we're talking about the British Championship now. Who's British champion? Tommy Searle. He's not doing GPs anymore. He's British champion. MX Nationals. Yeah, that fastest 40 was awesome. It's fantastic racing. Weekend, Brent Van Donnick ran away with it. He can't get a GP ride. He's not quick enough to get a GP ride. So, he's a great rider. I love Brent. He's a good lad, but he hasn't got a GP ride. But he's running away with the fastest 40. You look at the people that are winning, and where's their level in motocross? So is the standard of British motocross high enough compared to Europe to get notice for riders? No, definitely not. Definitely not. So
do you think now then,
when Graham Irwin was British champion, he's a countryman of yours, Martin. Where did he used to feature in GPs? He'd be on the cusp of the top 20, wouldn't he? He'd be borderline getting lapped every race. And he's British champion. So, are we quick enough? No, we're not quick enough. It's sad to say because, we were the greatest nation in the world in the sport, but that was a different time.
Right. So what we're saying, or looks like it's happened, is now we've got this void. We have got this void, and it's going to be a number of years. Really, we've got to effectively sort it out, or try to sort it out somehow, so British riders can come through and do what they got to do to bring them through a UK system. Otherwise, their only alternative at the moment is to go elsewhere. Like we said earlier on about the Danish, and you said, quite rightly, stating fact that they obviously have got this thing going on that Seb talked about, but they haven't got any riders. He's come back since that comment, and I'm putting up on the screen now. Valid point, Bob. There's no Danes other than Olsen and a few others at thingy. But as the comment here, he said, but they're working with youngsters, and the last time out on the so it looks like that is starting to.
And good luck to them. They've got to start. They've got to start somewhere.
And then he's gone on to say, and again, this is Seb's comment. I'm not going to be pulling anybody's out. This is how he feels. This is the whole idea of this Dirty Talk show, is to debate and discuss. And there you go. So he's basically said, he obviously wanted to stay in the UK and bring it, but obviously for whatever reason he's put there, he couldn't. So how right.
Well, the thing that brought this conversation about, the thing that brought this conversation about for me, and what made me think, was a conversation I had in Italy when Conrad and that first race in the last GP came through, and we're talking about Conrad, and Conrad's got 2 years left in MX2 before he's 23. Gilby's aged out this year, so he can't go again. And we were saying, right, who's going to be the next rider in MX2 from the UK? Because MX2 is the entry for MXGP. And if we've got nobody in EMX 125, and you've got 3 years coming through EMX 125, and you've got nobody in EMX 250, and maybe from entering EMX 125 and you need to be in it at 14, 15, which people don't seem to realise. You're finished at 17. I had people used to apply to me for an EMX 125 ride when their kid was 17, 18, and I go, sorry, he's too old. And they go, what? But if you're starting at 14, 15 in EMX 125, and you've got to be in MX2 by the time you're 20, we've got 5 years where we're not going to have an MX2 rider. Our next MX2 rider is not on the horizon. And
not by going through the system, as it were, if it's an academy.
No, if you get somebody that suddenly gets quick and goes straight in, then yes, or buys the ride. But if you've got somebody that's getting there on merit, on speed, we haven't got anybody for 5 years.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that or not, Martin? Can you see anybody in 5 years' time? Anybody in the system that's now on going to go into 125 next year? Charlie Heyman, we're all hoping, is going to be the thing.
Yeah.
But
Charlie,
apart from one rider, what is there?
Yeah.
There's not, is there?
There's not really, no.
No.
Yeah,
See, me and Martin haven't had a conversation about this.
No,
me and Martin unfortunately, me and Martin have never had a team relationship or a sponsor relationship, although I've tried many times.
Not done
so
yet.
That's a complete,
not done yet.
That's a completely independent
haggle.
A completely independent view to mine, and he agrees with me. There is, apart from maybe Charlie Heyman, we haven't seen him yet against European opposition, and we're all hoping he will be, some light at the end of the tunnel. Apart from that, I don't see anybody.
No,
I don't.
And that's just like obviously Bobby Bruce. He's
Bob's gonna have a go. Yeah.
Hopefully he can develop. Like obviously he was at Crescent Yamaha last year with me, and now he's with Asa Husqvarna, and the step he's took forward is tremendous. But I think with him racing in the UK this year is going to hinder him because he's winning pretty easy. He hasn't got that pace that somebody's breathing down his neck constantly.
Like Charlie Heyman.
I don't know if he's going to be doing at Lommel, the EMX 125.
He's going to Mantova. The last of the three at Mantova is an EMX 125. Bobby's doing that. Then he's going straight to Spain, and then he's doing the 3 in Lommel. So he's doing the rest of the EMX 125, which is good because I think this is his last year at it.
Yeah, I think that's what he needs to do. Because I don't think we've seen how fast he can go yet because he's always riding in reserve. So that'll be very important for him to, hopefully he goes and, gets good results under his belt and, keep climbing.
He was awesome on an 85, wasn't he? He was brilliant on 85. Yeah. Bob's got a chance. Yeah. But whether he's...
Yeah, he has. So, okay, so they might be coming through there, but let's talk about the here and now then. So riders that are going to be going into, like you said, we got nobody coming in EMX 250. Obviously there might be some people that would, and that's the whole idea, is debate. What about the likes of like with Joel? He's just starting out, getting on a 250. Do you think he's young enough to have a good crack at it?
Yeah. He's always Tino's done him right. He's always moved him up early. I mean, he was racing with Ike last year. He was a year younger than Ike because Tino kept him going up early, which is what you should do rather than keep him down. You've got like Tom Grimshaw, Taylor Hamill, people like that are doing the odd MX2 race. Should they be in EMX 250 and racing through that to get the speed before, like you say, they get pulverized into submission in MX2? I don't know the answer to that. Taylor's obviously quick. He won an MX2 race at the MX Nationals, but is he not only MX2 quick, but is he also MX2 like mentally ready? That EMX, Martin will tell you what that EMX is like. That not only prepares you for speed, it prepares your head as well, doesn't it? Yeah,
definitely, because they don't look at the bigger picture. They're just for there and now, and they just throw their balls to the wall, and it's arguably tougher, really, to a certain degree than MX2, because first of all you've got to qualify first and foremost.
Yeah, it's definitely way harder than MX2, EMX 250, and the speed at the top is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like when I started off in doing GPs way back in 2005, 2006, you had to qualify. And, you know, I had that mental block there going to the race. You know, you had to get over that first hurdle, where them guys is kind of skipping that and just going straight, oh, I'll go MX2, I'll get racing, you know, job's a good one.
Yeah, the sting of not qualifying, of going all that way, not qualifying racing, is a great motivator.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
you look at that first MX Nationals, Stewie didn't qualify, did he?
No.
And since then, he's been riding awesome. He's been riding absolutely brilliantly.
Going on. We just had a question come up from Pocop Mel. I think that is actually Mel and not Mel Senior. But before it's up on the screen, before I get to that, which is a similar vein of what Mel's just posted, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know the full ins and outs of the ruling on EMX 250. I know obviously the age out rule, you've got to be 23. But do you think they should possibly say you can't even go and enter MX2 until you've done
scored so many points in EMX or something? Yes.
Do you reckon they should do that?
Yeah,
is that
like
a rule?
like an L plate sort of thing. Like go and earn your stripes.
Yeah. So, but that's not in place at the minute. I don't know that. Right.
No.
Okay.
If you've got €1,000 and there's a space, you can go and race a GP.
Yeah. But I think that would help, wouldn't it? If they did that alone, so you got at least gain a bit of experience in EMX 250 before going or trying to go to MX2.
Yeah.
But then again, I think as well, it depends on how mentally strong the riders is. You know, obviously you see a lot of these young kids coming through. They're maybe prima donnas. They don't like getting beat. They don't like the hard graft. You know, and maybe if that rule was in, they wouldn't even bother going because they've themselves beat already because they don't want to put in the hard work. You know, I definitely think a lot of riders are a lot softer now. And you know, when the tough gets going, you have to dig deep and battle through it. And that's not just in motocross. I think that's all young kids coming through just in this world at the minute. You know, there's no graft in them as such.
The other thing we haven't touched on as well with kids, obviously, is parents. Now that's which are a massive factor in the job.
Oh, hold it there, Bob. I'm gonna have. Let me take another drink before you go into that subject matter.
How much vodka's in that, Marty?
Just as a double.
So you've not only got the kids that have got to manage their expectations, you've also got to manage the expectation of the parent. So you've got a parent whose kid's running, you even get it sort of like top 6, say in the BYN, who thinks his kid's the fastest thing in the world. We're going to go out and do EMX. We're going to go out and race in Belgium and Holland. And they go out there and get beat and they never take the kid out there again. And that's it done. So, I mean, I tried one thing when I was with the factory KTM support. I tried to get Diga Racing to come over to do one round of the BYN with their boys like Case Carsmaker and people like that to race at the BYN so that the parent that never goes to Europe to see what the speed is like could see firsthand where the bar is. Because you might have, as Gareth says, great racing in the BYN. You have great racing in the BYN. That doesn't mean the overall speed of the racing is good. You can have a great race between 40 slow riders. It's a great race, but it doesn't mean the level's good. And it's that level that we've got to try and reach. How?
Well, we'll get onto that in a minute. We'll try and get onto that in a minute. Ben Burridge, the Bullet, has just come up with a good question for Marty. Marty can answer this because it's certainly changed since I raced GPs, or I'd like to hope it has. Maybe it hasn't. Ben's asked, what do our federations actually do for our riders in GPs in EMX? The few that are in it anyway, when they're there.
Nothing. They haven't even got a representative there that walks them through the signing on or the how it works or anything. Nothing. Martin, is that right? Or
yeah, definitely. Like it was just off our own bat. You know, obviously I was fortunate enough to ride for Revo when we were doing it. But as far as, you know, my federation or anything, no, we get no help whatsoever.
So obviously, you know, but that's not across the board, is it? Because we've seen like you mentioned, Bob, the Italians have a crew there with them. The French Federation, obviously, we've seen how good they do things at the nations and stuff like that with their setup and all that. So I mean, most people watching this will know that, won't they? So we need to look at how to do that. Talking about Bobby Bruce, Tom's jumped on board. Tom, who taught Bobby everything, by the way, clearly. Tom's come on.
That's this, Bobby. Tom taught me everything.
Yeah. He's got a straight up question because we've been talking about Bobby. Question for you then: do we go 250 next year or stay in the EMX 125? We're talking about Bobby Bruce. If you just watched in, this is Bobby's father, Tom, asking us.
My answer would be: does EMX 250 on a 252 stroke?
Best of both worlds, Bobby. Superb. I'd be all over that. I'd love to see that happen.
Because people have forgotten that. We got that rule changed. You can run 252 in EMX 250. There's a kid come second in Latvia doing it. And Jimmy Dunn obviously won one. So, I'd say 252 in EMX 250. What would you tell him to do, Martin? Stay in EMX 125.
Shall we vote on that? Let's vote on that. I'm voting for what Bob said.
Well, I would,
Marty. So Marty, is this going to be a clean sweep? What would you say?
With obviously, if he's doing Montova and normal, he's going to see where he's at. If he is, not where he wants to be in the EMX 125 class, I think that's a very good stepping stone into the 250. So it'd be interesting to see his results. And I'm not too sure of exactly what age, how long he would have in the EMX 125.
1 more year.
He would have 1 more year. So yeah, if he's not where he wants to be in that, then that 1 more year might be that confidence booster to jump into EMX straight away and run at the top, knowing that he is a capable rider of running up front.
Yeah. We got is a good point.
Sensible answer. Yeah.
Yeah, very sensible answer. Okay.
What he just said.
Andy Slavin has come in and he's made a good comment. This is Andy's comment. Britain makes classes to suit riders. You can pick your own level or a class to suit your speed. Years ago, when I rode the British, you could turn up and not qualify. In fact, the main race now, you pay your money to pick your class. Also, pick your championship. Too many championships if you're not doing well, and we jump from one to the next, not helping.
That comment is one that's thrown at British motocross all the time. That there's too many championships. I don't think that's an issue because you've got Marty. I think Marty will agree with me. You've got the three. You've got the Bridgestone, the MX Nationals, and the British. The field is the same in 3 championships. You're not taking riders off of one championship to go and do another one because they don't clash the weekends, so everybody does them all.
Yeah, granted. Yeah. Totally agree.
So it doesn't matter that there's too many championships, does it? It's more bike time, it's more racing. It's not one champion. You don't jump. If Martin's not winning the British, it's not a question is he'll sack that off and go and do the MX Nationals because he's already doing the MX Nationals. He's already doing the Bridgestone.
Do you think that's just at pro end though, Bob? Do you think some youth riders are cherry picking a championship more and therefore not riding against each other?
Yes.
So
yes. The official British Youth Championship is the BYN. It's the ACU Championship. So anybody that wants to get on the British teams or anything like that, they have to do the BYN because that's the ACU Championship. That has the worst supported classes in all the youth championships, and I think that's purely because of the fathers don't want to put their kids in against the quickest kids because you'll get maybe 15, 20 riders on the line at a BYN, but they are the 15 or 20 quickest kids. Yeah. And the kids that would normally then fill up the rest of it, they don't want to go and do it because they know they're going to get lapped once at least. I think that's the reason the BYN's poorly supported. But the rest of them, the MX Nationals and the Bridgestone, they're always full. You can't get in them at the kids' classes.
Yeah. But how do we do? So like you said, Gareth has done an awful lot, tried an awful lot to try and get things moving, to try and get this whole structure put a, you know, try to get things going like the Italian and the French and whatever, but it just hasn't rooted. So you mentioned it earlier on, $1 million question. How do we get that going? And before you answer that question, Swanee, my co-commentator at the MX Nationals with the mad hair, you won't mind me saying that, Spidey. He thinks, again, it's a good point, well made, that we should maybe look to doing some kind of thing that they do in America, where that you have a stock class where it's just, you don't tamper with the bike and it's all about seeing who's actually talented. So not just who's got the biggest wallet. Yeah, what's your opinion on that?
Well, it was like what I did is I did that Pro-Am series, didn't I, with the 250 LCE AMs. They turned up with the bikes in the back of a van. You drew a key out of a bucket, and that was your bike you rode for the weekend. So that's good. I think it's an awesome idea.
Yeah. What about you, Marty? Would you be, if you was back younger, like, would you be willing to just show that, you know, put the doubters to bed by saying, look, I'm riding the same bike as you. I'm just better. Because you still, you know, you get people obviously when you come through, you still, particularly in youth motocross, you get a lot of people doing well, particularly in the 85 or 125, and it's like, well, of course he's doing well. It's not a 125, or it's not an 85, it's a 105.
Yeah, I think you're going to get that in all levels. You know, as he says, it's not just about the big wallets. So a stock class, even board across the field, you know, it's definitely a good idea. It shows you who actually has the talent, who can ride the bike to its full potential.
Yeah.
Just, I think like the British Championship did have like a separate championship in the same race for people that hadn't done EMX or World Championship races, and they had their own separate podium and stuff. I think that gave them riders an incentive, rather than, you know, racing the likes of like last year Dylan Walsh and Olsen and all them guys that was doing the GPs. They had their own separate championship that kept them driving on to try and, you know, get the top step of the podium in that little championship.
I think if it's going to be a stock class, it's got to be a stock 85 class or something like that, because if it's stock 250, it's already too late.
Yeah. That's a valid point. Callum has just come in. He goes, oh, well, obviously with the modern ECUs, it's very easy to check if the bike's been tampered with. But like you say, regards to development, probably too late in the game. Dave King, Dave, let me just make sure, which Dave King is that? I say that because I know too.
That's Liat Dave King.
That's Liat Dave King. Not of the VX DM thing, of the Liat thing. Dave, good to see you tuning in. There you go. So he's put up, are 2-day youth meetings part of the problem? Are they getting burnt out? You could argue the Dutch, French, Germans, you're bucking the trend as they only want 1-day meetings. What's your thoughts on that, fellas?
Well, I think the way they're running the GPs at the moment, where you've got a 1-day European on a Saturday, and then you've got a 1-day GP on a Sunday, I think that's awesome. I think that, you know, it focuses everybody's mind. This is their day. You're into your groove. You get your racing done then, and the same with the GP. You're not chucking. You don't get the situation where if there's bad weather, they always think, well, we're not going to put the Europeans out and wreck the GP track. They can stay till like midnight Sunday, even though they've got to go home, and they can race at the end of the day. That kind of thing. I think the 1-day format that you've got now is fantastic. I'm a big fan of that.
There's a lot of riders. There's been quite a lot of riders saying they prefer it as well, isn't there?
It makes the team. It makes it so much easier for the teams. Yeah, because you're only getting you're only working on that bike the other day, and especially if you've got a team like I've been with Hitachi at these GPs. They've got EMX and GP riders. If you can concentrate your mechanics and your pit bull and everything like that, you can get all that done on EMX on the Saturday, and then you can get it all done. But if you're running the two together, you've got an EMX, then you've got to get ready for an MX2, then you've got an MX1, then you've got another EMX, and you've got the trolley pit, you've got the wash bays, you've got everything. It's all a complete mishmash. But when it like it is now, it's superb. I think it's brilliant. But the only downside is I've heard the people at Ustream or in front of it now saying they can't wait to get back to the old format. I mean, that quali race, what use is that quali race? It's a waste of fuel, isn't it? Time practice and
from a rider point of view, obviously, the qualifying's race to get a good gate pick, but in the back of your mind, you still know Sunday's the main day, where the one format, right, today's the day, everyone has to go for it, where you're trying to spread yourself over 2 days. You don't want to do too much on the Saturday, especially if it's warm. You're at Lommel, a real demanding track. You want to try and keep your energy for the next day. I think the 1 day is very good.
So, Marty, you definitely prefer a 1 day, regardless of what age you're at. Was it also better, do you think, like, I know they've argued Saturday is not just about, qualifying and whatever, but an opportunity for the riders to get more track time, get the bike set up. But is it overkill? Do you need that much time? Surely you can get it dialed in practice and warm up, can't you?
Yeah, from anybody at that level, as soon as they do 2 laps, they know what they need to come in and adjust it. It doesn't take a full day to set that bike up for that track. And with motocross, it's constantly changing anyway. So I think for that, as Bob said, it's a waste of petrol. You have so much 40 minutes free practice, 40-minute time practice, 25-minute qualifying heat. It's a lot of rain on a Saturday.
You're setting the bike up on a Saturday, and then it pours with rain on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Where's your setup? If it's on the same day, at least the weather's the same, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Martin Turner has just cropped up with something here. We're going a little bit divert. We'll make this quick on this one, but it's a question and a comment I've heard regularly since they've done the MX2 and the pyramid system, the age thing. Martin has come up and said to scrap the age limit on MX2. Some riders are just better on smaller bikes.
MX2 is not a world championship. It's a world youth championship because, there are people that are better on a little bike. Martin could have done MX, Martin's a small bike rider. You're right. He's right. Martin is a small bike rider. Mel was a small bike rider. There's plenty of people. How many people go back down? Valentin Guillot is one of the most. He was awesome on that 250. Can ride a 450 to save his life. Yeah. So I agree. It's not a world championship with an age limit on it. Plus, if you get the problem you've got at the minute with the top of EMX 250 and the top of MX2 at the same level, you haven't got a pyramid system. Because by the time you've got to the top of EMX 250, or when you're getting to the top of EMX 250, you're thinking, quick, I've got to get out of here because otherwise I'm not going to be able to race MX2. So if the age limit stayed at 23 on EMX 250 and there was no age limit, you could have from the 17 when you come off the 125, you could either make that 18 if you kept it the same. You could have 5 years in EMX 250 working your way up through it before you go into MX2. But as it is at the minute, you think, right, if I'm going to have 3 years in EMX, if I'm going to have 3 years in MX2, I've got to be out of EMX 250 in 2 years. You're forcing your hand. So definitely scrap the age on MX2. Big fan of that.
Yeah, well, I'd agree with that. Philip McMaster has come on, using Mike Brown as an example. We all know how fast he is. So we're all in agreement with that. We might not be right, but that's the idea. That's our opinion.
Well, we didn't hear from Martin. Do you agree with that, Mark?
Yeah, 100%.
Age limit gone on MX2?
Definitely. As it's clear to see, there's a lot of riders are MX2, better on an MX2 bike than they are on an MX1. A way back, was it Alessio Coyote, the Italian rider?
Yeah, Coyote,
yeah. How many world titles did he have in 125? And then he went to the bigger class, and just that small frame, he wasn't suited as much to it.
I don't think Cairoli'd have gone up if he didn't have to. No. And when he did go up, he only went to a 350 to start with. He wouldn't ride a 450, would he? I think he'd have stayed down MX2.
True. Okay, while we're on this kind of subject about the pyramid system and all that, Andy, pleased you're tuning in. Obviously, Andy, who's followed the Hitachi team around and written the books and stuff. There you go. There's Andy's comment. He said
he's written another book, hasn't he?
Go on, we'll all have to move our heads up like that. So the in-front pyramid system, it's according to Andy, with 125 and 250 is working as designed. It proves that their talent always rises to the top.
British,
yeah. Too
Big
many
fish
riders.
in small ponds, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, as they need to commit to crossing the channel. You know, obviously these extra all these things now we're talking about. So do you think you know, that's another reason for British riders not making the grade because they feel like they have to get up and leave and go to Belgium and Holland?
Yeah, that's always the thing that people say you got to go to Belgium and Holland. But what I'm just alluding to when I first started was that Belgium and Holland then isn't the place to go anymore. Spain and Italy. The everything's cyclical. Everything moves on, and I think Holland and Belgium, with the loss of a lot of tracks, they're not the force that they used to be. Yeah, they've got the top riders now that have come through that system over the years, the Goldenhoffs, the Hurlins, the Valandrans, people like that. But the youth is so strong in Spain and Italy and places like that now. But yeah, you definitely got to commit to going to Europe to ride EMX if you're serious about your kids' motocross. And I think the big fish in little pond is also the parents thing. How many times have you heard a parent, I mean, Martin will say this if he's training people, oh, we'll keep him down next year, he might win it. Everybody else is moving up. If we keep him down next year, he might win that class. That's got nothing to do with the progression and the training of the kid. That's all about ego and winning championships. And who remembers who won 85 small wheel?
Yeah, true. Marty, got a question for you, leading on from what Bob said there. You know, you're expecting child, not you personally, obviously. You're a good lady. In fact, you said she could go any time through this live show, which would be a first, which would be an incredible first. Let's fast forward. Obviously, you know, all goes well. I hope it all goes spectacularly well.
Yeah, here.
You have a baby boy, and let's fast forward, or girl, but let's just say for argument's sake, boy, top level motocross rider.
Just that, you know, it is twins we're having, so it could be
a
sidecar team.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
But let's say you was that parent and your boy took up motocross and he's showing form, and with the experience that you've got, how would you play it living in Northern Ireland if he started showing form at around, you know, 11, 12, and you think actually he is good and he wanted to do, how would you go about it?
Well, it's basically exactly what my dad done. You know, from me, when I racing over here, I was winning, which was no good. So they took me to England, my mum and dad, you know, put themselves in shitload of debt to get me across the water every weekend to go to a British Championship. I remember going to Maziemore and not even qualifying. But he kept me at it since I was on a 60, back and forward, because, you know, he was a road racer. He was a racer himself. So he has that mentality that, you know, yeah, he might be winning, but it's not doing him any good because he needs people faster than him to bring me on. And that's exactly the way I would be. I know what you've been saying, you know, a lot of the parents, they kind of want to live their dream through their kid. And, you know, and they keep them down to win them races and the championships. But in the bigger picture, it's not doing them any good whatsoever. So you have to, as a parent, you know, you have to put that aside and think of the bigger picture. Just, you know, I'm grateful that my mum and dad have got me to where I am. They traveled. I was getting beat. I was getting, my head was dropping. I wasn't enjoying it, but, you know, they kept me going because they seen I had potential to go somewhere, but I wasn't going to do it, just staying at home. You know, so it's a big commitment, obviously, from the parents, but, you know, it is part of the package, what you know, you need it to keep going forward.
Here's a brilliant hypothetical question. We're still loads to discuss. We could go on for 2 or 3 hours here. I don't know, and we probably will go on longer yet. But I just thought, let's get to this level now. So I am, I don't know. Let's say I'm really important. I got a load of doubt, and I've basically gone right. You two, right there, right. You're running the show. You're running the in a different world. If there was just back to one federation in the UK. And I went, right, I want you two to develop young, you know, talent and get us to be a dominant force again in world motocross. And this, the answer to this could be an hour long, I know. But what would be the first port of call? How would you, where would you start?
you've got to start with the kids that ride motor. I mean, the utopia would be that you get a Yamaha to give you an Arctic full of peewees, and you go around the schoolyards and you get out and you get people riding motocross bikes.
Yes,
but that not going to happen anyway. So you've got people that are starting riding. A parent can afford to run his kid on an auto and a 65 if he's that way inclined and interested. So I would go with what Swanee said, but have it on a 65, say, where you have pure 65, nothing else, just get a class, a stock class, and you find out who the quick kids are. You find out who the kids that have got natural speed. So I was talking to Marco Maddi about Guadagnini, and Guadagnini led that MX2 for 6 laps and then faded like a cheap t-shirt. And Marco was happy because he said he's shown he's got the speed. He said you can't teach speed. You can teach technique. You can teach fitness. You can teach approach to your life, dietary, but natural speed you can't teach. So you've got to find the fast kids. You've got to find the kids that have got the gift, the natural speed, and do it on a stock bike is the obvious way of doing it. And then you've got to have in place a system to channel those fast kids through. So you need a national training college. You need a structure from the governing body. So in this case, it would be the ACU that has. I mean, Richie Mike's training school is good, but you need a national. That's his own business, so there's obviously financial pressures on that. You then got to get these kids somehow into a system and start what Seb was saying they're doing in Denmark. They haven't got the fruits of that yet because it probably hasn't been running long enough. But what you have to do is to realize that you're starting with 65-year-old kids and you're going to make no difference to the Pro British Championship for 10 years. And you've got to bite that bullet, spend all the money at the bottom end and let the British Championship be whatever it will be for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I probably won't get to see the fruits of it.
No, we kind of spoke about that earlier, didn't we? Say how there's going to be a hole. There is a hole. We spoke about it.
What would you do, Mark?
Yeah, exactly the same. As I've been saying, if the federations don't realise, if there's no youth coming through, there's not going to be any future adults. So you're going to have that hole. You need to start from the start, develop them through, put them through that.
Marty, sorry to butt in there. Do you think they think like that? Are they aware like that, or what? I mean,
I don't know.
You're right. I mean, without wanting to sound like bloody Michael Jackson, the children are the future, aren't they? I mean, without developing them, we're not going to get adult right into it.
They're living in the older ways. Like everything's moved forward, and they're comfortable with what they're doing. They don't want to push the boundaries, try different things, to get these youth riders coming through. They're just stuck in their ways, I think. But yeah, it starts from the 50s, 60s for that, 10 years down the line when they reach the EMX, the MX2, where they're going to shine. There is going to be that hole.
Yes.
Ross Parkinson's come up with a good thing, something similar. But again, this might get onto the whole another championships or whatever. But obviously, the structure in America is a bit different because of, well, it just is the GPs and whatever. But need to run something that they really want to win, where everybody's all in together, like a UK version of the Loretta's. What would your opinion on that be?
Yeah, it could work. Obviously we don't really have something like that, so it could be a tester to see what way it goes. The manufacturers get involved, and they could pick up some riders that steer them in the right direction, to go to the top level. It does work over in America. There's no reason why it can't work here. But obviously, it's going to take years to develop that, and to make it right.
Here's an interesting
Here
comment.
he is. Evening, Tino.
from Tino. Obviously, we've touched on Joel's progression and where he's going, and obviously he's just stepping onto a 250, and going well. Obviously he's going to be pushing on now in EMX and whatever over the next couple of years. So that's going to be good to see how that pans out. Tino's come on and said, not enough youth riders from the UK are willing to sacrifice everything to get to the top.
I think he's doing himself down a bit there. Tino's done a good job with Joel. I think he's selling himself short there. It has got a bit to do with fathers, and he's one of the better ones.
Yeah. So, well, hold on, I've taken it down. Let's get it back up. What was I saying? I've lost it now. There we go. Yeah. And he said it just, takes a kid that wants it more. But like you said, also, guidance and doing it right and putting him in the right class at the right time.
Tino's always moved Joel up early. Not early, but as soon as he could, as soon as he thought it was right, which is why Joel's always had a year or 2 years on the people he's racing. He's been up against kids a year, 2 years older than him, and he's been running with them. So when he went to the Europeans, it wasn't a big thing to him to be racing against older kids. But you get a lot of it. Those kids cut at 17 coming out of the top end of EMX 125, they're men. They're like big, burly. They're ready for it. They're ready for EMX 125, EMX 250, because they've had from 14, they've had 4 years in EMX 125. Half of our kids are still running around on 85s because they haven't been moved up by the time they should be in EMX 125. And by the time they start thinking about EMX 125, it's already too late. You've got to do what Tino did with Joel. So, yeah, whether it's you've got coaches that make that decision for riders that have been picked to go into this school from 65s, if we're talking about it, or whether you've got switched on fathers, you still need the right guidance for the kid. Whether the kid wants it, he's right in what he's saying is if the kid doesn't want it, you can't force him to. You can't,
Well, no.
And a lot of parents have tried that, the shouting, the screaming, the physical and psychological abuse of their kids because they want them to do well at motocross that they're not good enough to do. And the kid hates the sport for it. You've seen that, haven't you?
And then falls out of love of it. Marty, did that, like you touched on it a little bit earlier on. You said, you had some kickings, you literally was getting downbeaten, you were getting down on it or whatever. So at that point, is that when the parent inside of it, is when you need a genuine an arm around you and not to be pushed? You felt like if you'd have been pushed, you've fallen out of love with it a little bit. I mean, you've got longevity, here you are, you're still doing it. So you've come out, obviously your dynamic with your parents must work and that support network because you're still at it. If you hadn't, you'd have packed it all in at that level.
Yeah, no, it's, you have to find that balance. Obviously there's times it's going to be, you're getting that in the year, you weren't doing this, you weren't doing that. And you need that because, if you're just getting it pretty easy all the time, they don't really show affection that, you could have done better. We're happy with that 5th, 6th place. It doesn't drive you on. You get used to that. Oh, he's happy. As long as he's happy, I'm happy. But again, I think there's the saying goes, as long as the kid gets the picture for the gram, the Instagram, and stuff like that, that's all they're happy about. There's very few kids that actually will go out and grit their teeth and battle through that, back out on a Monday morning into the gym, just getting the work done, what it takes. It's all about social media and stuff now. To a certain degree, it's very, very good. But at the same time, they're putting a picture on and their friends from school that know nothing about motocross think they're brilliant.
Do you think some, not kids because they don't, they're at an age where they maybe don't fully understand that yet, but do you think there might be some parents and people in the industry now starting to also go, don't see the end goal in getting there, you know, because that, I think we're all agree with this. Correct me if you don't, I'm sure you will, that certainly when I used to race GPs, and then Marty, the era you was in, you know, that there was a bit more spectrum of earning money from top to bottom. Now, you know, you've got to be in the higher echelons of the sport to say what I would say, make serious money where you can park it up when your career's over and go, I'm financially set for life. Yeah. Whereas obviously
a lot of the people at the top end of the sport aren't earning any money out of it. They're paying.
That's what I mean.
There's very few people that are actually going to earn any money out of motocross.
So, do you think that's an issue? Do you think that's a problem why people aren't going? Then
Longo doesn't pay any prize money, does he? There's no prize money for winning EMX 125, EMX 250, MX2, MX1. No prize money. He says it's not his job to pay the riders; it's the team's job to pay the riders. So the riders get bonuses off the team, they get wages, etc., etc. If you're not on a team, if you're not on one of those teams that's got bonus deals and sponsors that are paying bonus, then it doesn't. You're not getting any money. You're not winning anything. You're just paying and paying and paying.
It's like back a few years ago, Volkenswaard GP. I finished, I think it was 11th in the first race. Every rider in front of me was on factory rides. They had 1 Grand Prix, and you know my bonus money for that race was 80 quid, and I was like, I could have stayed at home and raced and made more money. And my local championships.
You could have been out there as a flagger, as a marshal, and probably earned more.
Yeah,
mad.
So, and that was, you know, it wasn't too long ago. So Bob is right. You know, there's not a lot of money out there to be made. You know, that was the World Championship, what I'd always wanted to dream of doing. And, you know, every rider in front of me had 1 Grand Prix, and I was out slogging my ass off. And, you know, that was my reward at the end of it. It was
having this conversation, talking like this, makes you think, well, you know, why bother? But as you said, Marty, there's more to it than that. It's the glory.
Most riders think they've won the lottery if they get a free ride, if they get a ride for nothing. You know, if somebody says to them, you know, you can ride, and it's not going to cost you anything, they think, bloody hell. You know, wages are something that most riders will never see.
It's typical. We're obviously, because we're coming towards the end. Well, we can carry on as long as you guys want, but obviously I knew it'd be a long one, and now we're getting a load of people coming with obviously a load of good comments. Matt Gain, who's doing like training schools and coaching with some pro riders and stuff. There you go. Bob is absolutely right. Support needs to go into National Training Academy, you know, but we can't wait 10 years. But then, so how do we overcome that? I don't really know.
Yeah. Who can you train that's already on a bike that's say on a 125 or a 250? Who can you train through a national academy to get out the ways they're in now, to get speed they haven't got, to go and win an MX2? You can't. So you're going to have to wait 10 years.
There's loads of good stuff coming in. It's obviously a more televised event. Well, obviously the just recently Gareth did the live stream at the start of the year. Shame, obviously that event was with the weather and stuff like that, but that went well. Obviously now the MX Nationals are doing it.
Yeah, television gives you the opportunity to get more sponsors in, and more sponsors mean more money. But then you've got to make sure that money gets used back into the sport, not go somewhere else.
Yeah. And now we got, oh, God, there's so many. Lee Webber. Okay, I'll pull this one up. Interesting. Josh Spinks. God, it's all gone nuts now. I can't even keep up with them. God, Lee Webber. There we go.
What's Lee Webber say?
Lee Webber. We should talk to Harry Kulas. See how he is helped by Finland and Estonia. Very different to here. There you go. And he's over here racing and probably getting funding from those guys over there, which is kind of goes back to what we said earlier on about the need to run the domestic championship, but he does race it back at home as well. So there's definitely
Lee's kind of like the way I was. You're spending your own money on a sport that you love, and you're getting nothing back out of it financially. You're just burning money to watch people ride around on your bike.
That's most teams in the paddock right now.
Of course it is. Of course it is, and that's that's no good.
Yeah. Marty,
What teams in the paddock?
Marty,
that's another thing. Go on. What
talking
teams in the paddock? Marty, you remember back to the days you were on those teams. How many team awnings were there in a British paddock? How many big teams were there with the trucks and the awnings? And now you look at it. What's there?
Yeah, there's nothing there to compare to what it used to be. You know, you don't even have that same buzz around the paddock now.
People turn up Sunday morning.
Yeah, that's it. Put the easy up, and that's it. Rock on.
Marty, you've now decided, you know, to do your own thing. You've got a wealth of experience as a rider. So now putting your own team together, how have you I know you've got existing relationships and you know a lot of people, but how did you find that going into that side of it? Was it harder than you thought, for, you know, getting a response from the industry and the level of support you were looking for? Or was it what you expected?
It's difficult. You know, obviously you're starting from scratch. Yeah, I've got a lot of good contacts over the years, and you know, everybody that I've rode for, I can go pick up the phone and speak to them. You know, so, but it is difficult. You know, you get to that problem where, you know, product isn't a problem. It's the pound notes that it comes down to you know, make the wheels turn as such. You know, especially for me, we have that bit of water across, which is crazy price. Yet I have a very good sponsor. It's been long term, not travel, who's a massive help. And without them, I wouldn't be able to do it. But you know, you go to the first round of the British Championship this year at Little Silver, 11-hour drive down for me, for it to be cancelled, which was about 1,500 quid. I may as well just threw it out the window. So you know, it's hard to get that money in. You know, I'm trying to, you know, keep the whole thing going. British motocross has took a massive dip to what Bob was saying. You know, years ago you had awnings everywhere, a lot of more teams. But you know, from a rider's point of view, running my own team, it's difficult. It's very difficult. And next year, I don't know. We don't know what about.
It's what Martin says. Exactly the same thing I had running my team. You can get all the product in the world. You just can't get any money.
Yeah.
So to take, I mean, we had back-to-back years. We had European Championship in Russia. Now to get 2 bikes, 2 riders, 2 mechanics to Russia and back for a European Championship, you know, $8 grand a GP. I'm still paying off the second one. It's the reason I stopped. I had no more money left to pay for fuel, wages, get all the product in the world. You get free bikes, free tires, free everything, but they don't run themselves and they don't work on themselves. And it's what Martin says. You just can't get the pound notes, and you can't win them. And as an interesting thing, if we're like, oh, British motocross, Bolts has just messaged me, said it's enduro as well. It's what we're saying now. You could be having a thing on enduro as well.
I totally agree. Now, this is the thing with this. Now, you know, us three sat here and everybody tuning in. Thanks for tuning in. There's always a part of me when I said I'm going to crack on and do some of these debate shows and whatever. I was just like, oh, it's going to be tough, because sometimes it's always going to look like we're just panning everybody, slaying everybody. Not, you know, whatever. It's not. All three of us here want it all to work. Want all federations to be healthy, successful. You know, this is the bit that actually drives me potty with stuff like this, is because it's just, surely we all need to get together and stand up and realize the first thing is realizing there's an issue and a problem. That's the first thing. Not that I've been to any AA meetings or anything. That's the kind of thing they'd say at an AA meeting, as I have another swig of that. But it's that kind of thing, though, isn't it? It's like we need to accept that if we're going to get back to how it was, that it's not currently working.
Yeah, you're not going to get back to how it was. How it was is the world's moved on. That everything's different to how.
Okay,
it was.
not how it was, but
everybody says, "Oh, let's get back to the fastest 40." You all got to there isn't 40 riders at the minute to have the fastest 40. If you're having qualification for MX1, where would you find 40 riders to go qualifying in MX1? There aren't 40 that are fast enough for a British Championship MX1.
Yeah.
So,
No.
you've got to start at the bottom.
That's-
If you can get television, if you can get sponsorship from television, if you can generate money, that money has to go in at the bottom of the sport to have a program, an academy, a channeling system to get kids that are good enough up through. And the problem you've got now is everybody's tinkering with the top. You've got different championships, whatever, how many, whatever. Everybody's tinkering with the top to try and make it look nice. They're trying to ice a cake that you haven't baked yet.
Yeah, that's true. I've just put this comment up from Marge. Marge, thanks for tuning in. I haven't seen Marge in ages because we haven't been able to go to race to the rights for ages. Marge and obviously the Sid Cup Club do an amazing job up there with the ACU for long standing. So Marge has put up, why do people think the ACU is a cash cow? Bridgestone, Masters and MX Nationals are not the ACU, but no one questions their federations about paying. I'll answer that first. I guess, Marge, it's because the ACU, in this, what we're talking about, getting riders through the GPs, it has to be them because they're the only ones affiliated to the FIM. They are the only route through. So on this subject matter, that's why we're because if you ride in the MX Nationals or the Bridgestone, that's not under an FIM license, and the ACU. That's what we're getting at with here. We're not, ultimately. We want everybody having the same option, but that's what we're trying to discuss tonight: is getting our British riders through a system, and obviously our federation has to be associated with the FIM, and that is the ACU. So that's why we're discussing it. That's my answer to that, Bob.
Yeah, that's exactly the same answer. I mean, the ACU does every sport, every motorsport as well, doesn't it? It does road racing, sidecars, whereas like Nora, and I think Nora is the MX Nationals now, and I don't know who does the Bridgestone off-road. I don't know whether, I mean, obviously by the name of them, off-road, what are they called, Martin? I can't think of it anyway. Yeah, off-road sport or whatever, they obviously only do off-road. So, but I mean, what you just said is that and it's what I said about the BYN. The BYN is the ACU Youth Championship, and everybody has to do that because the ACU is affiliated to the FIM. So if you want to go and do World Championships, your route through it is the BYN. You can't go and do World Championships if you just go and ride the Bridgestone because you need an FIM license, and the only person that can give you FIM license is the ACU.
Yeah.
Or do what Eddie J. Wade, Adam Collins, Christopher Mills did: go and live in a different country and run under a KNMV license or whatever the French Federation's called, FAN license.
But that's the point of what we're discussing in the debate. We don't want our British riders to do that. We want them to represent.
Yes, so it has to fall to the ACU because they are the official governing body of our sport.
Yeah, absolutely. So Marty, when all said and done, once we've changed this MX2 rule, which me and Bob are going to vote for, we're going to put some serious heat on in front. Or I still can't get used to it. I still call them youth stream. How old are you now?
Just turned 33.
You don't have to answer that.
Just turned what?
33.
I thought you said 23. I said, come on now, you are talking crap.
Good.
And as you are riding a big bike to good effect, but by your own admission, you're more of a small bike rider. We can get you out there, do that, then get you on the firm, coaching young riders through when we get a huge cash investment and have an academy and all that. Bob's your uncle, but he's not. He's the goggle guy. But
yeah, I definitely think if that age rule get changed for sure from that 2018 when the EMX made that rule, where we aged out of that class as well. I'd love to had another crack at MX2 in the World Championship, but rules are rules, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can't have those two age limits the same. You can't have the feeder class can't have the same exit age as the class it's feeding, because how does it feed it?
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, we've done an hour and 20. I could easily do another hour and 20 more. But it's probably best if we don't. And secondly, I've got a bladder like a field mouse. I've had 2 bottles of bud, and I'm sat here tensing. I'm absolutely thinking, if I don't have a piss in a minute, it's not going to end well. Sorry to end it like that. But I think we've covered a lot of points there. You know, we can always do version 2 once we get some feedback. Obviously, we had a load of feedback from people tonight, and I really appreciate that. It's been good seeing all your responses, and just getting involved, more of it as we try to build this thing up. Maybe we will come back in 2 weeks' time or whatever, and we see what the opinion is of it, and we might have some genuine ideas and plans in place from some people. So that would be cool. I hope we've highlighted the where it's all at, and maybe the next
let's all wish Marty good luck with his
absolutely
half. Good luck with the birth of their twins.
Yeah, that's
hope
awesome.
Hope everything goes well and they're all healthy. And
I'd just like to point out at this point, Marty, you're going to have to get out there and ride your nuts off for more than 80 quid. Now you're going to have 2 mouths to feed, extra mouths to feed.
2 peewees to buy.
You're going to have to ride, come in, marshal, sell burgers and hot dogs, and then get back out on the bike. You know, you've got to really earn it.
All right, one question we haven't got to answer. Martin, okay. Pee-wee or QR?
That's a tough one.
That is tough.
That's a tough one. Well, I was on a PW, so probably PW.
Bob, why? Where did that question come from? Have you got
his kids? What's he going to start them on? A PW 50 or a QR 50?
All right. Well, if he's having twins, he can have one on a PW, one on a QR.
Get off the fence, Perrick. Get off the fence.
But no, thanks very much for that, guys.
No, Marty. Thanks for coming on, Marty. Such short notice.
Really enjoyed it, and you know, as we were saying, we're not pointing the fingers at anyone.
No,
we're all in it for the love of the sport, and we all want to grow it. So, you know, hopefully we get some good feedback, and as you say, maybe version 2 could come in a couple of weeks' time, and we could have another chat.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'd just like to die without Jamie Dobb being the last British world champion.
Let's hope that happens. Not you die. I meant that we have a world champion before you die. And Marty, just to reiterate what you said, I will rubber stamp that. This is just we want the whole thing to succeed. You know, every federation to be strong, healthy, and it really. I'm 2 beers in now, so I'm going to say it really pisses me off when people think that we're bashing certain federations or pulling people out or whatever. Just want it to be healthy and our sport to thrive, and that's it, and bring some young talent through that we're all proud of. That's what we'd all like to see, I'm sure, and many people out there. So, Bob, just remind me again, what's the 537? What's all that about?
It's a mate of Mikey Crassi does clothing, and I didn't have a hat in Latvia, and he gave me a hat. Damien Weddage is 537. He was one of the EMX 300 boys, but I just wanted a hat that look, my old boss is a bit of One Industries. I just wanted to be non-Oakley tonight because, you know, I just didn't want to be corporate. I wanted it to be me.
You wear it well, but then you and I have to, you know, especially if it's a sunny day. Yeah.
Good. Look at way too, boys. Don't worry.
Come on, Marty, you're way off. Me and Bob look like an older version of the Mitchell brothers. Anyway,
yeah, it's either that or those 2 dudes in the balcony on the Muppets, isn't it?
Yeah, that's more what we're like. A lot more alike. Right, gents, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm going to go and have cold barbecue food. Marty, I'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you.
Great. All the best of luck with all that. I hope it all goes swimmingly.
Here. Good luck, Mark.
Looking forward to seeing the pictures of the Bambinos when they arrive. Great stuff.
I'm out of here.
Thank you.
See you, Bob. Bob's going. We'll get rid of him. Marty, take care. Thanks for your time, buddy. And I don't know when I see him next, but that's it. That was Dirty Talk 6 of 2020. It was good. It was lively. It was long. Thanks for sticking to the end. I'm going to sign off there and go and have another few of these. Thanks for watching. I'll announce when we're back soon with Dirty Talk 7. It could be version 2 of what we've just done. But thanks, everybody. Enjoy your evening. Stay safe. Obviously, we're way way not out of the woods yet with the whole coronavirus thing. So be smart, stay safe. And I don't know when we'll see you at a track soon, but hopefully pretty soon. In the meantime, keep your chin up, keep rocking in the free world, keep loving your sport. And I'm sure we'll get through it all together. Right. See you soon, folks. I need to eat and pee.